Welcome back to the channel JF Coin, where we uncover the hidden treasures in your pocket change. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and highly collected coins in American history, the 1963 1-cent Lincoln penny. At first glance, this copper coin may look ordinary, but let me tell you, it is far from that. Some of these pennies can be worth hundreds of dollars, and collectors around the world are always searching for them. So stay tuned until the end, because you might be holding one of these ultra-valuable Lincoln pennies in your collection right now. Let's start with the history. The Lincoln penny is one of the longest-running coin designs in United States history. It was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. The coin was designed by Victor David Brenner, and his initials VDB originally appeared on the reverse side at the bottom of the wheat stalks. Over time, the design changed. In 1959, the reverse was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. That means by the time 1963 rolled around, the penny was already a beloved piece of American heritage. Now let's focus on the 1963 penny. The D Mint mark tells us it was struck at the Denver Mint. This year alone, the Denver Mint produced more than 1 billion Lincoln cents, which makes you wonder, how could any of them be valuable? The answer lies in condition, rarity of errors, and collector demand. Most 1963 pennies you see today are circulated and worth only face value. But when you find one in pristine mint state condition, especially graded MS65 or higher, the value skyrockets. Collectors pay a premium for well-struck coins with sharp details and that classic copper red luster. One example of a top-graded 1963 penny sold at auction for an incredible $442. Imagine turning a 1-cent coin into nearly $500 just because it was preserved in nearly perfect condition. But there is more to the story than just condition. Error coins from 1963 are especially desirable. Some pennies show double deaths, where the lettering or date looks doubled because of a mistake in the minting process. Others may have off-center strikes where part of the design is missing. There are even rare repunched mint mark varieties where the D was stamped more than once. These kinds of errors can easily bring big money from serious collectors. To really understand the value, we also need to look at the market. In recent years, the demand for vintage Lincoln pennies has grown steadily. Collectors love the history and nostalgia of copper coins, especially since modern pennies are mostly zinc with just a thin copper coating. This makes older pre-1982 pennies like the 1963 more desirable because they are made of 95% copper. Even for their metal content alone, they hold extra value. But when you combine that with rarity, condition, and error types, you get a recipe for coins that can fetch hundreds of dollars on today's market. Now here is something to think about. Millions of these pennies are still out there hiding in old jars, boxes, drawers, and coin rolls waiting to be discovered. The beauty of coin collecting is that treasure could be sitting in your home right now without you even knowing it. All it takes is one lucky find and you could have a valuable coin worth far more than face value. So how do you know if your 1963 penny is special? First, check for mint luster. If it shines like it just left the mint and has no scratches or wear, then you are already in a good position. Next, look closely at the date and lettering for any doubling or unusual marks. If you notice something unusual, it could be a valuable error coin. And finally, consider getting your coin graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade can make a huge difference in market value and give buyers confidence in what they are purchasing. The 1963 Lincoln penny is a reminder that even the smallest coin can carry a big story and an even bigger price tag. From its origins in Denver during a historic era of American coinage to its potential worth of $442 today, this penny is more than just spare change. It is a piece of history, a collectible treasure, and a symbol of how passion and attention to detail can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. So next time you come across a penny in your pocket, take a closer look because it just might be one of those ultra-valuable Lincoln cents from 1963. Coin collecting is all about discovery and every coin has a story to tell. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Lincoln pennies, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another episode. And as always, keep searching, keep collecting, and who knows, the next coin you find could be worth a fortune. Would you like me to also write you a catchy video title and thumbnail text for this 1963 penny so your video attracts more clicks? Today we are talking about one of the most fascinating and often overlooked coins in American history, the 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1967. At first glance, this coin may seem like just another common copper penny, but when we uncover its history, its design, its role in American coinage, and of course its current market value, which can go as high as $442 in certain conditions, you will realize that this is no ordinary piece of change. Let's begin with the history. The year 1967 was a special one in the United States minting system. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint made a historic decision to remove mint marks from coins. This was done to discourage coin hoarding because during the mid-1960s there was a massive shortage of coins. People were pulling coins with mint marks out of circulation thinking they would become rare and valuable, which left the mint struggling to produce enough coins for the public. From 1965 through 1967, every coin that came out of the mint had no mint mark at all, including the Lincoln penny. That means if you have a 1967 penny, no matter where it was minted, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it will not have a mint mark. This fact alone makes the 1967 penny historically unique. Now let's talk about the design. The Lincoln cent had already been in production since 1909. Created by sculptor Victor David Brenner to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most beloved presidents. On the front, or obverse, you have the detailed portrait of Lincoln facing right, with the word liberty to the left and the motto "In God We Trust" above his head. On the right side you will see the date, 1967. On the reverse you see the famous Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears design. If you look closely at the memorial under magnification, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial itself, a remarkable detail that many people overlook. Now let's dig into the composition of the 1967 penny. These coins were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which gives them their distinctive reddish-brown or dark brown appearance depending on how they have aged. Because of their copper content, these pennies also carry intrinsic metal value. In fact, even just as copper, a 1967 penny is worth more than its face value. But collectors and numismatists are not just interested in metal value, they are after the history, rarity, and condition. So what about the value? This is where things get exciting. A circulated 1967 penny, the kind you might find in your pocket change, is usually worth only about 1 cent up to maybe a few cents over face value. However, uncirculated examples, especially those graded by professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC, can fetch significantly higher prices. High-grade specimens, particularly those with a brilliant red luster straight from the mint, can bring in hundreds of dollars. The current recorded market value for a superb gem mint stage red example of the 1967 Lincoln cent is around $442. Imagine that. A single penny that most people would overlook as pocket change can be worth hundreds in the right condition. Another factor that makes the 1967 penny special is the absence of proof sets. The United States Mint did not produce traditional proof coins from 1965 to 1967. Instead, they released something called special mint sets, often abbreviated as MS. The 1967 special mint set penny is sharper and has a more proof-like finish compared to regular circulation strikes. These coins can also be very valuable, especially in high grades. Collectors love the SMS coins because they represent a unique chapter in American numismatic history, a short 3-year period when the mint experimented with these special issues. Now let's talk about errors, because coin collectors love error pennies. The 1967 penny has several known error varieties that can make it even more valuable. Some of these include double dice, where the lettering or date appears doubled because of a striking error. Off-center strikes are another exciting variety where the design is not perfectly centered on the coin, leaving a blank crescent of copper on one side. There are also clipped planchets, where a small portion of the coin is missing due to an error during the blank cutting process. These error coins can bring in anywhere from a few dollars to several $100s depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. Let us also not forget the cultural significance. The Lincoln penny has been in the hands of millions of Americans for more than a century, a small but constant reminder of Abraham Lincoln's legacy and the ideals of liberty and trust that the United States holds dear. Holding a 1967 penny is like holding a little piece of the 1960s, a decade filled with change, progress, and history. So how can you tell if your 1967 penny is valuable? First, check the condition. If it is uncirculated, shiny, and has very few marks or scratches, it might be worth sending into a grading service. Look for any unusual features like doubling on the date or letters, or an off-center strike. If it comes from a special mint set, handle it carefully because collectors are always on the lookout for high-quality SMS examples. In conclusion, the 1967 1-cent Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It is a snapshot of American history, a product of a unique time when the mint was dealing with shortages, experimenting with new minting techniques, and still honoring the legacy of Abraham Lincoln. While many 1967 pennies are only worth face value, the best examples in pristine condition can command market values as high as $442 today. That means the next time you go through your change jar or inherit an old collection from a relative, keep your eyes open for this little copper treasure. Thank you for watching and joining me on this journey into the fascinating world of the 1967 Lincoln penny. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into coin values, histories, and hidden collectibles that might be closer than you think. Who knows, the next coin we talk about might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Would you like me to also create a super catchy YouTube video title and thumbnail text for this script to help attract more viewers? Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins of the United States, the 1965 Lincoln cent, also known as the 1-cent penny. At first glance it might look like just another ordinary coin, but trust me, this is a coin with an incredible history, surprising facts, and a market value that can reach hundreds of dollars. Some of these 1965 Lincoln pennies have even been sold for as much as $442 depending on their condition, rarity, and unique minting features. So if you think that old penny sitting in your drawer is worthless, you might want to think again. Let us begin with the background. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first United States coin to feature the image of a real person, and that person was none other than one of the most respected presidents in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse side of the coin shows the famous bust portrait of Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse side in 1965 still featured the Woodstock design, a classic look that collectors adore. However, the 1965 penny falls into a very interesting period of American coinage history, and that is where the story becomes fascinating. The mid-1960s was a chaotic time for the United States Mint. There was a severe coin shortage across the country, and millions of Americans were hoarding silver coins because the value of silver in the marketplace was climbing higher than the face value of the coins themselves. To combat this problem, the U.S. Mint decided to remove mint marks temporarily from all coins between 1965 and 1967. That means when you pick up a 1965 penny, you will notice that there is no mint mark below the date. Whether it was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, they all looked the same. This decision was meant to discourage collectors from hoarding certain mint mark coins and to keep money circulating in the economy. It worked for a time, but today it makes the 1965 Lincoln cent an intriguing piece of history because it represents a period when the government stepped in to change the rules of coin production. Now let us talk about the details of the coin itself. The 1965 Lincoln penny was struck in huge numbers. More than 1 billion were produced, which at first makes it sound common. It was made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it that classic reddish-brown color that slowly changes to darker brown over the years. On the obverse you see the familiar design with Abraham Lincoln facing right, the word Liberty on his left, the motto In God We Trust at the top, and the date 1965. On the reverse you see the wheat ears flanking the words 1 cent, the motto E pluribus unum above, and United States of America written boldly. Collectors often call this the wheat penny design, and for good reason, since it had been used since 1909. But here is where the value and excitement comes in. Even though billions were struck, not all 1965 pennies are equal. Condition plays a huge role in determining value. A regular 1965 penny found in circulation today might only be worth a cent or two. But when you find one in superb uncirculated condition with sharp details, bright luster, and no scratches or wear, that is when the value starts climbing. Collectors will pay a premium for high-grade examples graded MS65 or higher. Some of these coins can reach values of hundreds of dollars, and auction records have shown sales going for around $442 for pristine examples. Imagine that. A single penny worth over 400 times its face value. Errors and varieties are another reason why 1965 Lincoln pennies are so fascinating. During the mid-1960s the mint was working under pressure, striking millions of coins to meet demand. That meant mistakes happened, and those mistakes are now treasures for collectors. Look out for double-die errors where the lettering appears doubled, off-center strikes where the design is misaligned, or planchet errors where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal. These error coins are extremely valuable because they are so rare. A regular penny might only fetch a few dollars, but an error penny can skyrocket into the hundreds or even thousands depending on how dramatic the error is. Now let us turn to the market. Right now collectors and investors are very interested in coins from the 1960s because they represent an era of transition. Silver was being removed from dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Mint marks were temporarily eliminated. Millions of Americans were starting to take up coin collecting as a serious hobby. The 1965 Lincoln cent is a perfect representation of all these changes. That is why well-preserved examples in top-grade condition continue to attract strong interest. The market value today is around $442 for the finest examples, but as with all collectibles, prices can rise even higher if demand continues to grow. In fact, some experts believe that copper coins from this period will continue to gain value because copper itself has become more expensive, making these older coins even more appealing. So what should you do if you have a 1965 Lincoln penny in your collection or you find one in pocket change? The first step is to carefully check its condition. Is it worn and scratched, or does it still have that bright mint luster? If it looks uncirculated, it could be worth much more than face value. Next, examine it closely under a magnifying glass to see if there are any unusual features such as doubling, misprints, or off-center strikes. If you suspect you have a rare variety or an error coin, it might be worth sending it to a professional grading service. Having your coin certified and graded by experts can dramatically increase its value and make it more attractive to collectors. At the end of the day, the 1965 Lincoln penny is more than just a small copper coin. It is a piece of American history, a symbol of a turbulent time in the 1960s, and a potential treasure that could be worth far more than its humble face value. From the story of Abraham Lincoln immortalized on the obverse, to the wheat design that honors America's agricultural strength, to the unique circumstances of mint-mark removal and coin shortages, this penny carries with it a fascinating story. And for collectors, it offers both sentimental value and the possibility of real financial reward. So the next time you come across a 1965 penny, do not just toss it aside. Take a closer look. It might just be one of those ultra-valuable Lincoln pennies worth hundreds of dollars. Remember, the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin can turn out to be extraordinary. If you enjoyed learning about the 1965 Lincoln cent and its hidden value, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of rare coins. Who knows? The next coin we talk about might just be sitting in your pocket right now waiting to be discovered. Do you want me to also make a shorter, catchy YouTube title and thumbnail text idea for this script so your video grabs more attention?